Hi there. Today is Sunday, February 13th, 2022, which makes this the week 6 Create Brilliance update with Jennifer Vanderbeek of scrapsoflife.com. How are you doing? So, um what what has been going on this week? This week has been all about the book. All about the book and mostly because the deadline for me to upload it to maintain the release date is this coming Monday. I got it uploaded in the wee hours of last night slash this morning. I still have time to make some changes if I find more that needs to be tweaked, but at least I'm fairly confident we're good to go. Um, I was fortunate enough to get some really good feedback from both of my beta readers and be able to incorporate that along with the proofreading changes that I caught. And goodness gracious, I hope I caught enough of them. It's like, I don't think you can ever catch them all. There's almost always going to be something wonky in a book. But, that's okay. That's okay. These things happen. I've kind of, the perfectionism needs to just be let go at times. So, yeah, there's that. I've been working a little bit more on the flaunt project. It's kind of funny. I don't know if it's funny, haha, or funny in another way, but I will say it's kind of funny that we got an update on the load in dates and stuff coming up, at the beginning of March. And, here it is, we're almost mid-month. And, the one of the organizers also said, "Hey, send us a picture. We'd love to see how it's coming along." It's kind of they want progress pictures, they want kind of sneak peeks and stuff. It's all well and good. And some folks do it that way. Some folks work on a project and it actually looks like something. And then there are those of us whose process looks like mess, piles, things pulled, things stashed, whatever, and then suddenly it's a project. I'm kind of in that thing. Also, because of course I've been concentrating on getting the book done by its deadline. That's been my primary focus. Coming this week, yeah, no, I will be shifting more into working on the flaunt box. Flaunt box. That kind of sounds funny, doesn't it? Or at least it does to me. That'll be stuck in my head for a while. Um, the other thing I did was I started working on the next coloring book. On Thursday, I went back to doing my Twitch streams. Again, for the most part, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern. Playbacks available on twitch.tv/scraps of life. Um, yeah, so, that happens, and, I'm toying with the idea of doing streams at other times. I don't know when they're going to best fit, but I'm gonna try and stick to those Tuesdays, Thursdays, 2 to 4s, as much as possible. Now, but no, so on Thursday, I got the first 2 pages done. Peace. No, the first 2 pages done for, the dessert-themed coloring book. One is a very large, cupcake, and one is a birthday cake. Um, yeah, so those got done. Um What else? I still have a lot of work to do on that. My goal was to have it out by the end of this month. It may shift to the very beginning of March. Either way, I'm okay with that. Um, I've also been like brainstorming book titles for book 4 in the Eden Creek series. Now you're like, wait a minute, you're just now finishing book 3. Yes, but I like to, in the back of the book, say, here's what's coming next, kind of thing. And I like to have the name and the book description. I've got a starter blurb, a working blurb for book 4, because I know what's gonna happen in book 4, sort of. I know what's gonna start the ball rolling in book 4, let's just put it that way. Um, but I don't know the the name yet, and, speaking of names, Names I'm usually pretty good at. When it comes to naming a project or conceptualizing something, I usually come up with the name first. And I know that this is different for a lot of, different creatives and a lot of different artists, writers. Um, and it's not impossible for book titles to be changed at the last minute, or, a book to get its title only once the book is complete. That absolutely happens. Not my usual MO. And I struggled to come up with the name for book 3 because the whole point, well, not the whole point. There's a lot of points, as opposed, to the books, but one of the guiding lights, guideposts. I swear I can word. I think I used up all my words this week in editing. No, one of my hallmarks and the Eden Creek Cozy Mystery Series is that each book loosely related to a card of the major arcana, and I'm doing them in order because that makes sense. I mean, I guess I could not do them in order. There's no rule that says I have to do them in order, but in my brain, it makes sense to do them in order. But yeah, so book 3, that card was the High Priestess, and yeah, that didn't really lend itself to a good title, just as is. Not to mention the fact that the first 2 books, Fool's Paradise and Magic Beans, for The Fool and the Magician, were quick, short, 2-word titles. Well, High Priestess alone, I kind of does. So I was like, I was brainstorming, different words and concepts, and oh my gosh, I mean, I filled pages in my notebook trying to come up with something, and then something also that fit with the story that I was trying to tell, because I want the title to at least reflect in some way, shape, or form the contents of the book. It doesn't have to fit perfectly, but it needs to at least nod towards it. And I came up with something that it was amusing. um it was appropriate, and it did fit like the cozy mystery trope of like a punny title, and which was Scrolling Down the River. But to say that I was thrilled with that title would not be appropriate, would not be correct. I settled for that title. And I kind of, inside, I cringed a little bit at it. And yeah, so last night, sitting at the dinner table, I announced to Todd that I'm like, "Huh, I think I'm gonna change the na we were talking about trying to come up with a name for book 4. I was bouncing ideas off of him, because sometimes it just helps to talk it out, even if the other person isn't really doing much more than just parroting back, and it's like they're giving you it gives you a chance to hear yourself say it to somebody else, not just say it to yourself. But, yeah, so I was talking about coming up with a name for book 4, and I said, I'm really not happy with the title for book 3. I was like, and I'm thinking to myself, "Ugh, I've already committed to it. I've already designed the cover, blah, 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 blah." Hold up. The book's not published yet. I can change it. I could change it even after it was published. I just have to unpublish the one version and re-release it with a new name, title, and ISBN. And considering how much ISBNs cost, I don't want to do that. But I had not assigned an ISBN yet. Did that last night after we brainstormed a better title for book 3, which is to say that with less than 48 hours to go from the upload deadline, I changed the name of book 3. I'm not going to tell you what it is, because that is something I feel like I should announce to my newsletter list first. And so I will be sending out a newsletter this week, just kind of giving them a heads up that, yep, the pre order period is coming to a close, that the release date is set for the 18th. And by the way, we have a new title. And yes, I will then have to update the, the older, the older information in books 1 and 2, which I needed to update some stuff in that anyway. Here's the thing, when it comes to self-publishing, and especially with ebooks are malleable. They're almost never completely done. That's why, at least with the Kindle platform, I'm not as familiar with the others, but the Kindle platform, if you have purchased an ebook, if you've purchased a book through the Kindle store, or Amazon, um, then it sends out a message that says, "Oh, there's an update available for this book." And it may be as something as simple as they fix some typos like I did with the first book, or it could be that, oh, they've updated the back matter because maybe there was a change to the the newsletter sign up. Maybe there was, they want to update the book list, they'll also buy this author book list. So there's a lot of reasons why updates can be sent out. Also, there could be significant changes. Like, they said, "Ooh, wow, that's really not a good thing. We need to make an adjustment." Um, if there's something potentially, you know, really, really negative, and they're like, "Ooh, on second thought, that's really not a good idea." Like maybe there was a word in there that's now become not canceled or anything, but just like, "Oh, no, we can be more considerate." We can do better. We can do better. So, that stuff happens. So I'm not super worried about that. The print copies, that's the thing about, print on demand, these things happen. But yes, so I came up with a new name for book 3 at the last minute, like pretty much 11th hour, and therefore then had to update the book cover that I'd created, which that was not a problem. I had to update, I even actually had to change the tarot card that I designed because the name of the tarot card had up needed to be updated because instead of High Priestess, we went with an alternate name. Now, if you're not familiar with tarot, this might just like, wow, you can't just change it. Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. Um, Survey a bunch of decks, and you will find that there are alternate names for certain cards. And sometimes it's done to modernize archaic terms, sometimes it's done to fit a theme, sometimes it's done just to, make it more accessible, and or it fits in better with the ideals of the deck creator. So this is totally fine, and you know and it fit the name that I ended up choosing was one of the primary associations with the card anyway. So if anything, it just makes it easier to remember what the card stands for. So yeah, but that was a quick change because of how I created the art. It's not like it was hand lettered and I had to go back in and redo. It was typesetting on top of the art. So it's okay. It was really not that bad. But I did have to change it in a couple places. And yeah, so all good in the end. And so that's where I'm getting this week's brilliance is change. Before I've used brilliance as flexibility, brilliance is change. Knowing that things can change, accepting that things can change, accepting that change is inevitable, but brilliance is the ability to change. And brilliance is knowing that you're not stuck. I could have said, "Nope, I've committed to this. It's in the other stuff. I don't want to change anything. I'm just going to full steam ahead." You know, no, because I would have regretted it. And why do we want to live with regret? Yes, I could have gone back and changed it later, but I could have ended up wasting an ISBN. Granted, I buy them in a block, so they cost less than, like buying a single one. By the way, if you ever go look up how much an ISBN costs in the United States, it's $125 for a single ISBN. Every book that is produced in each format requires its own ISBN. Sure. Yeah. Now, granted, if you buy a 10 pack like I usually do, then it goes down to like 29.50 a pop. So it's a lot better. But still, you don't want to waste that. You don't want to waste anything. You don't want to waste time. You don't want to waste energy. You don't want to waste effort. And so making the decision to change and then brainstorming and settling on a new name, a name that fits the naming convention of the first two books, a name that fits the 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 book itself better. It was like as soon as it was presented, it was like, no, of course this is what it needs to be. So, and this week's lesson is brilliance is change, and knowing, acknowledging, and being able to change and being happy with that change and not feeling that changing your mind is a bad thing. We are allowed to change our minds. We are allowed to change our perspective, especially in light of new information. Um, and I think that not all change is good. Some change is uncomfortable, but change is inevitable. And so this week is brilliance is change. So, all right. Looking ahead to next week, lots of art stuff. Yay! I am going to start working on the next book because that's how it needs to go. The next book won't be coming out until the end of April, though. So I'm giving myself a little bit of grace as far as time. I'm not trying to churn out the next one in a month. Oh no, not doing that anymore. Um, but yeah, so a lot of art projects. So I hope to have like visual things to show you. And then, of course, the book launch is coming up this week. It's going to be a quiet launch, out of necessity, but I am going to, and the next thing is to start promoting. Oof. I kind of already have an inkling of what next week's brilliance is answer will be. But yeah, yeah. So, but whatever's ahead for you this coming week, I hope you are able to approach it with courage, grace if possible, and just do what has to be done because sometimes things just have to be done. But I hope you will give yourself grace and, make time for yourself. Of course, always try and include a little bit of creativity in every day or recognize the creativity that is inherent in your day. Until next time, bye bye.